They are the fastest, the largest, and the most dangerous in the world. They conquer every terrain and they overcome borders.
This is a very challenging thing to bring out a new ship like this.
But it is much more than a challenge.
It's absolutely a privilege to be here and do this.
Their design goes beyond the scope of what is technologically possible, setting new standards. These vehicles are milestones of engineering.
This is the father of air travel.
On land, on water, and in the air, all of them are ultimate vehicles. In this episode, a super sports car on course to set world records, the Bugatti Chiron. The most powerful of all, a tractor designed for mega farms. Also, the Beast, the biggest snow groomer serving the best skiers in the world. A dump truck as big as a single family house. This Belarusian truck has as much power as 6 Formula 1 cars. And finally, the most powerful and highest telescopic crane in the world. Hundreds of people worked for a decade to create it. The fastest car in the world pushes technology and physics beyond their limits.
One of a kind among hypersports cars.
The Bugatti Chiron.
At the moment, there is nothing out there that can beat this car.
The Chiron was presented for the first time in February 2016. It has 1,103 kilowatts of power and is outfitted with a W16 4-stroke engine. That means a maximum speed of at least 420 kilometers an hour, and then some. The Bugatti factory in Molsheim, France, is the birthplace of this super sports car. Its production is strictly limited to 500 units, built entirely by hand. Working at maximum capacity, factory manager Christophe PIOCHON and his team can build about 70 cars per year.
If a Bugatti can be compared to other cars, it's no longer a Bugatti. In production alone, we have more in common with a Formula 1 car than with a standard assembly line product.
The newest challenge, to break the world record, which dates back to 2005. It was set by a previous Bugatti model, the Veyron, which defined the upper limit of speed at 431 kilometers an hour. No other manufacturer has been able to top it so far. With the Chiron, Bugatti wants to raise the bar it itself set. No easy task and enormous pressure for all involved. Including head designer Frank HEYL. He devoted 10 years of his life to designing this new model.
I've had sleepless nights and also long nights to meet specific deadlines and find specific solutions.
Their motto, form follows performance. The mammoth task of breaking the top speed of the entire automotive industry requires a very specific visual form. A special challenge for the marriage of technology and design. One that can literally cause friction.
The test phase gave us certain insights, for example, into thermodynamics and aerodynamics, how to deal with the heat of a 16-cylinder engine. We came to a point in development where we should have cut more holes in the car, but of course, as designers, we didn't want that.
The solution, built-in air intakes, integrated seamlessly into the design that ultimately provides for extreme engine performance. It is precisely this high performance that Bugatti test driver Andy Wallace really treasures. The winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans has already driven a few ultimate cars in his life, and he's not easy to impress.
This car is absolutely amazing, and I've done more than 50,000 kilometers in the car, and every time I jump in the car, I get the same feeling. It's not normal. It's something very, very special.
Andy Wallace personally shows customers how extraordinary it feels to drive the car. Its buyers are among the richest people in the world. Whoever spends 2.5 million euros on a single car expects a unique experience.
So the car is incredibly comfortable and relaxing to drive, but then, of course, if you want, it becomes this 1,500 horsepower supercar with amazing top speed, amazing acceleration.
And that is precisely what all customers want. The path is long, however, before the fastest car in the world can bring excitement to roads and buyers. Each one of these super luxury automobiles spent 6 whole months in the Bugatti factory. About 20 employees prepare the sports car to withstand the most powerful stresses possible. This maximum performance is made possible above all by the brand new high-performance engine.
This is the heart of our vehicle, our 16-cylinder engine with 1,500 horsepower, which of course totally changes the car's dynamics.
Cars with turbochargers normally need some time to react. The Chiron avoids this turbo lag with a sequential setup. When accelerating, at first only 2 of 4 turbochargers are active. Maximum torque is thus already achieved at 2,000 RPMs. At 3,800, the other 2 turbochargers are activated. Full power is reached at 6,700 RPMs.
The fact is, once you've driven a Bugatti and experienced its acceleration, every other car will seem lame.
Visually, the Chiron also sets a high bar for the automotive industry. With each one of these million-dollar vehicles, an employee spends 2 whole workdays on nothing but polishing the surface to perfection. Afterwards, production leader Christophe PIOCHON and his team examine every centimeter of the carbon fiber body in a light tunnel created specially for this purpose. Their procedure as meticulous and painstaking as in an operating theater.
Our quality standard is to see through the eyes of the most demanding customer possible in the most revealing light conditions. That means that all imperfections are immediately visible.
Only after the Bugatti Chiron has passed through this ordeal does it leave the workshop and hit the streets. Once it has made it this far, there is only one thing left to do: step on the gas.
So here we are at the La airfield, and this is the place I can really show you what the car can do.
125 meters per second. That's 1 kilometer every 8 seconds. When driving like this, the Chiron releases enough energy to supply an entire home for a month.
Ready, go.
The official top speed is 420 kilometers an hour. Technical calculations, however, promise something more. Massive amounts of water continually cool the engine when it is at full power.
After racing for 32 years, I have never sat in a car that can accelerate as fast as this one does. And I'm absolutely amazed at the performance. I would not have believed this was possible even 10 years ago.
And that's exactly why Andy Wallace is certain that they will break their own world record with this car. Later in this episode, the most powerful mobile crane in the world. Also, A vehicle that lives up to its name. The Beast displaces more snow than any other groomer. The most powerful engines in the world are not only found on asphalt racing strips. The next ultimate vehicle deploys its power on farmland. The Case IH Steiger 620, the most powerful tractor in the world. With 620 horsepower, it works on the biggest farms in the world. Years of research went into it, with one goal: developing an indestructible machine that can accomplish the most extreme tasks.
When I started, the largest tractor was about 400 horsepower. Now we're at 620.
And this much power is necessary on a modern mega farm.
It's nice to have the big one for this.
But the mega tractor must also withstand long-term stress. The Steiger 620 gets hardly any downtime. The first Steiger 620 was built in 2014, breaking all records. It has a maximum engine power of 500 kilowatts. Thus, it can pull equipment almost as heavy as itself. One place it is used is the Canadian province of Manitoba. One of the most important agricultural regions in the world. Today's job: field work over an area of 2.5 square kilometers, the equivalent of 357 soccer fields. To manage such a heavy workload every day, farmers need a machine with the most powerful modern technology. Oak Nook Farm is one of the biggest grain farms in Manitoba. It produces 15,000 tons of grain per year. Most of the field workers have long since been replaced by technology. Farmer Wayne DUTCHYSHEN and his son Justin are preparing the Steiger 620 for today's operation. They can't afford to lose any time. Due to bad weather this spring, they have only an extremely small time window for sowing.
It's been real wet this last fall, and now this spring is shaping up the same way to be real wet. So we have to, when the sun's shining, we gotta get the seed in the ground.
A hard day lies ahead of the farmers. They spend up to 20 hours at a time in their tractors. The reason is the enormous time pressure. The longer they need for sowing, the smaller the harvest will be.
Oh, we'd like to get probably about
600 acres done?
600 acres seeded this unit today.
No, we get more done with this one than the last ones we had, and definitely more productive, more power, more efficient, more done in one day.
250 hectares of land await Wayne and Justin DUTCHYSHEN. The 620 can do 16 hectares per hour. It pulls a 20-ton sowing machine, one of the widest and heaviest pieces of field equipment. It lets farmers cover a larger area in less time. The 620 has 3 movable joints between front and rear. The 3 connections provide more flexibility and traction than the single large journal bearing other tractors have. The weight of heavy trailers is distributed better. The smaller tractor comes along to the field to move stones out of the way that could impede the sowing. With its 150 horsepower, however, it cannot pull the high-performance farm implement. For that, the 620's maximum power and endurance are necessary.
Just really impressed. Big power, it's got the hydraulic power, and also you can set all your GPS coordinates here to operate it without steering it.
The tractor's advantage: it pulls the biggest implements over the field, but with minimal impact on the soil. Thanks to the tire's huge surface area, the tractor's weight is distributed equally over the ground, thus exerting less pressure. The soil remains loose and well supplied with oxygen. The result, a larger harvest. Justin DUTCHYSHEN checks how deep the tires are sinking into the soil.
It's about 1.5 inches. That's very good compaction in this field. Huge tractor, less compaction per square foot, bigger footprint, more power. Yeah, still around a better tractor.
The tracks are only 3.8 centimeters deep, which means less than half as much pressure on the soil as with other tractors. Fargo, North Dakota. This is where the Steiger 620 is built. Much hard work is expended to remain at the forefront of producing the most powerful tractors. Brian Vick is the managing engineer.
Oh, it's awesome. When I started working with Steiger, our largest tractor was 400 horsepower, which at the time I thought was huge. And then we progressed to 500 horsepower, and now we're at 620. And I'm just amazed at the additional power that we've been able to provide.
Steiger has produced high-powered all-wheel tractors since the 1950s. The first models had only 1/5 of today's power. Today, the mighty 12.9-liter engine can produce a maximum of 500 kilowatts of power, the most in its class.
When he gets into a tough spot into the field and needs extra power, this engine will respond with another 40% torque. And that's the power you need to pull through the tough spots.
Such a strong engine produces a lot of heat. The engineers have been tinkering for a long time to develop a suitable cooling system that fits within the tractor's parameters.
One of the biggest challenges we had was cooling the engine. And of course, 620 or 680 horsepower takes a very large radiator. If you look at this tractor, notice the slope of the hood and how low it is in front. That's intentional, gives an operator a very clear view in the front of the vehicle. So one of our constraints was that we would not allow the radiator to grow any taller. We didn't want to restrict operator visibility.
The engineers have managed to put the world's most efficient cooling unit under the hood. This is the only thing that lets huge fields be worked every day with no downtime. In addition, the tractor has the best fuel efficiency. It is also very robust and needs hardly any maintenance. That's important for farmers like Justin and Wayne DUTCHYSHEN. For their tractors never stand still for one day. The tractor is also used every now and again in emergency situations. Justin DUTCHYSHEN's truck has got stuck in the mud. The fully loaded truck weighs 26 tons, almost as much as the tractor. His father Wayne interrupts the field work to save the truck. No other vehicle can help now.
Oh, I got kind of buried. She's a little bit soft in the yard today. A little bit wet. Yeah, tug her out now though.
With such a heavy load, the tractor activates its turbo mode. It increases its torque by 40%, delivering 500 kilowatts of power.
Give it some tension here and get it out.
Thanks to the torque boost, the rescue mission is child's play.
Yeah, there she comes. It's coming out. Yep.
It's nice to have the big one for this. Yeah, it pulled it right out with no problem.
Yep. Great.
Yeah, it was easy pull.
After 19 hours, the workday draws to a close. The day's goal of 250 hectares has almost been reached.
We had a real good day today. Managed to get lots done because the tractor performed real good and didn't have any other problems, so we got a lot of work done today.
357 soccer fields. It's only possible with the Case IH Steiger 620, the most powerful tractor in the world. Compared to it, even the biggest tractor looks like a toy car. Later in this episode, the biggest dump truck in the world, the monster truck's territory, an open pit mine in Siberia. Good off-road capability and low pressure on the surface. What's important for a tractor also counts for a snow groomer. The next ultimate vehicle grooms the most important slopes in the world. This ultimate vehicle goes by the name of Beast. The Beast is the biggest and most powerful snow groomer ever. It is over 7 meters wide and has 388 kilowatts. Its surface of track area is 17.5 square meters, more than any other groomer in the world. Planai in Schladming, Austria. The Beast's territory. The biggest, steepest and most challenging ski areas on the planet. In a few days, Schladming will host the night race, one of the most difficult World Cup slalom races. Today, the Beast is grooming the piste for this important event. Chief driver Wolfgang PERHAB himself is at the controls.
Today is very special. We're preparing for the night race, for the best of the best. The piste should be perfect. So, we're taking care of it today, making it the best we can.
The cable winch prevents the Beast from slipping and thereby damaging the ground below with its weight of 15 tons. Hooked up to its little brother, the Beast starts off. Wolfgang PERHAB's first job is to bring the snow back up the mountain that the previous day's skiers have pushed down into the valley.
The important thing is not only to flatten out the piste, but to give it contours. They shouldn't be steep or too angular. They should be harmonious. A challenge, but not a danger to the skier.
Then there's the time pressure. By this evening, the entire piste, 300 meters long and 50 meters wide, must be finished. Track for track, Wolfgang PERHAB pushes the snow into position. With just one joystick, he controls all the functions, including the snow blade, the winch, and steering. Thus, he can maneuver the huge snow groomer with only one hand, and at the same time, take care of race preparations. At 7 meters, the groomer is as wide as 5 mid-sized cars. Impressive dimensions, even for a pro like Wolfgang PERHAB.
The blade is extra wide, just like the groomer itself. Its great advantage is that it has lots of space for pushing snow.
The Beast can push 8.5 cubic meters of snow at once. Teeth on the underside tear up the snow mantle. The loose snow is then pushed up the blade's convex surface. From there, it falls down in front of the blade, and the process is repeated. This creates a kind of snow cylinder that rolls in front of the blade. The upshot, the snow can be pushed more easily.
My first thought was, it works great. Finally, real horsepower. We used to have 300 horsepower. Now we suddenly have 527. And that's great for a driver. He can fill up the blade and not have to worry about how he'll make it up the hill.
The snow groomer moves up the 52% grade slope at 10 kilometers an hour. The Beast is built in Sterzing in South Tyrol. In the 1960s, the engineer and race driver Ernst Prünot developed the world's first ever serially produced snow groomer in a car repair shop. Today, his company is one of the 2 market leaders for groomers. Engineer Martin KIRCHMAIR was one of the leading minds involved in designing the Beast.
Weight is always important to us. We don't want to be too heavy as we've got to drive up the mountain at a high speed. So we had to find a compromise between size, performance, and what could realistically be used on the piste. And that's how we arrived at the Beast's dimensions.
In comparison, the world's first serially produced snow groomer looks rather small. In the years that followed, ski areas got bigger and so did the groomers, ultimately resulting in the Beast. Its dimensions also pose some challenges for the experienced snow groomers engineers, as Martin KIRCHMAIR recalls.
The challenge of developing such a large groomer is not only that everything must be larger, but that you have to consider every detail, every small part. Is it still strong enough for the new stresses resulting from the blade's larger size? The vehicle has more power.
To this end, the Beast has a 527 horsepower diesel engine, the kind usually used in cranes and diggers.
When the Beast was started the first time and had its performance tested in the lab and the horsepower was there and we saw that it worked, it was a great feeling for us. We saw, hey, awesome, this is working, and we can use this on the snow and we can keep going in this direction.
After a good 3 years of development, the Beast was presented to the public in 2009. It is now used in 75 ski areas. In Schladming, Wolfgang PERHAB, the driver, is in the midst of preparations for the upcoming World Cup slalom race.
We're done pushing the snow. Now it's time to start with the detailed work of tilling. It looks good for the best of the best.
His most important tool for this, a tiller 7 meters and 10 centimeters wide.
It has many teeth, and it's important that they are all intact, and that we go very slowly and with high rotation speed, so that the tiller really does its job.
This step is extremely important. Only tilling stabilizes the piste. Rotating 1,500 times per minute, the tiller shreds the snow grains. This way, they can melt together to make a stable snow mantle.
The advantage is that this tiller now gives us 7 meters of width, so you don't have to go back and forth as many times on a large area.
2 hours later, as night falls, the job is done. Wolfgang PERHAB is satisfied.
The piste is perfect, thanks to the Beast's width and speed.
The night race can begin. Later in this episode, a mine giant. This dump truck can load 450 tons of stones and gravel. Added to its own weight, that's an amazing 810 tons. The next ultimate vehicle reaches its full potential when stationary. Its speciality, the fight against gravity. No other mobile crane can lift such heavy loads to such great heights as the Liebherr LTM 11200 9.1, the strongest mobile crane in the world.
There's nothing better on the market.
It was first introduced at the 2007 Bauma Trade Fair in Munich. Its maximum load capacity is 1,200 tons. The maximum hoist height of this 9-axle vehicle is 188 meters. Germany, the North Sea coast. A new wind farm is being created here on the Butjadingen Peninsula. Wind farms are the chief area of operations for the LTM 11200. For no other mobile crane can lift the incredibly heavy components to a height of 100 meters and more. Today's task, to mount the 62-ton rotor consisting of hub and blades at the top of the wind turbine. Crane operator MARCEL has been driving and operating the XXL crane for a year.
The wind turbine's hub is 108 meters off the ground, and to lift the rotor 108 meters, I have to extend the telescopic boom completely.
This LTM 11200 is equipped with a 52-meter 4-part telescopic boom and a 60-meter luffing jib made of lattice extensions. In different configurations, the telescopic boom can be 100 meters long and the luffing jib 126 meters. Depending on how it is used, The LTM 11200 can be set up in 5,000 different combinations. The so-called Y-gang keeps the crane stable despite the weight of the load and of the boom itself, which can be over 100 tons. The higher the boom and the heavier the load, the more unstable and susceptible to wind the crane becomes. The Y-gang consists of two supports affixed to the side of the telescopic boom. Connected to the top of the boom with steel cables, they create counter-tension. Thus, they keep the boom from bending under its own weight and the load attached to it. In addition, they stabilize the crane against crosswinds. The supports swivel and can be adjusted to the boom's incline and load. This Y-gang lets the crane lift 4 times as much weight as it could without. The LTM 11200 is manufactured in Ehingen in southern Germany. It takes about 2 months to assemble the world's biggest mobile crane. Joachim Henkel heads up the statics division and helped to develop the LTM 11200.
The motivation for building an even bigger mobile crane came from developments in wind power. These were so complex that we broke totally new ground. We had never built a 9-axle vehicle. It was an experiment, but we were ultimately successful.
The ground vehicle alone weighs a mighty 108 tons. Since only 12 tons per axle are allowed on the road, 9 axles were the only solution.
Normally, it takes 2 to 3 years to develop a crane like this. Not this size, but with less load capacity. For this one, we needed a bit longer, 3 to 4 years, as it's a bit bigger.
Liebherr presented the new mobile crane for the first time publicly at the 2007 Bauma Trade Fair. Unit price 5 to 6 million euros. So far, about 65 of these vehicles are in use worldwide. Before a crane leaves the factory, it is extended to its maximum height, inspected thoroughly and tested.
The longer the systems, the more wind sensitive they are, especially when fully extended vertically. This crane must stand firm in every wind situation.
The crane, made of high-strength, fine-grained steel, can work in wind speeds of up to 9 meters per second. The vehicle itself is also tested before delivery. Its drive engine is an 8-cylinder turbo diesel with 680 horsepower. It can accelerate the 20-meter-long vehicle to a speed of 75 kilometers an hour. All 9 axles are steerable, thus allowing the crane to be maneuvered through tight curves despite its long length. The 4 rear axles also have partial automatic steering. The crane thus has a turning radius of only about 15 meters. Meanwhile, at the construction site in northern Germany, preparations are almost complete for lifting the rotor. Having secured the huge blades, workers attach them to the crane's hook block. First, Marcel carefully removes the 62-ton rotor from its mount. The crane is powered by a 367 horsepower 6-cylinder engine. But the rotors, which have a diameter of 82 meters, must first be brought into the upright position in order to be attached above.
The most difficult thing is that the cable operators must precisely see when the rotor is being slowly lifted. The cables must be given tension at the right moment, so the rotor does not move in the wrong direction. At any moment it could hit the guy line, especially on the right side, so the people working the cables really have to pay attention to what direction the rotor is facing as they lift it, so it doesn't hit anything. It's very precise work, and you need a lot of practice. It can be difficult to get it right at the beginning, but the crane can actually be operated with great precision.
While Marcel lifts the rotor, worth several €100,000, slowly to the top, His colleagues on the ground pull and push. Thanks to the way it is appended, the rotor turns upright.
I need to make very sure that I do exactly what the spotter says. As far as the crane is concerned, it's impossible to overload it. It shuts down when it reaches 100% of its load capacity. There's a bit of a safety threshold, so it's not like the crane is about to tip over at 100% capacity or anything. There's a safety threshold, so everything's still fine when it shuts down at 100%.
The crane has another safety feature, an integrated wind gauge that warns the operator about overly strong winds. But today, everything's fine. Meter for meter, the rotor approaches its objective. After about half an hour, the job is finished. The rotor is attached to the top of the wind turbine at a height of 108 meters.
We're always relieved when the rotor is up top and in the hub, or rather in the generator, and fastened. That's always the moment when we can relax.
And as soon as the rotor is fastened, the most powerful mobile crane in the world can move on to the next wind turbine. The last ultimate vehicle also carries heavy loads, and it is itself a heavyweight. It weighs more than a fully loaded Airbus A380. Compared to this ultimate vehicle, even a tractor-trailer looks like a toy. The Bugatti 75710 is the world's biggest and heaviest dump truck. Its job, transporting 20 to 30,000 tons of rock per day. It can load over 450 tons and has 2 diesel engines under the hood, with a total of 3,430 kilowatts. Kemerovo in Siberia, the home of Russia's largest coal deposits. The Chernigov's mine runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The 75710 is by far the largest vehicle in the mine. Thanks to its gigantic dimensions, 20 meters long, 10 meters wide, nearly 10 meters high, and a loading space of 270 cubic meters, it has 25% more payload than any other dump truck in the world. Igor GRACHEV is one of the mine's 4 drivers qualified to operate the giant on wheels. His shift supervisor gives him a new assignment.
I have to do 10,000 tons today, at least 17 or 18 trips.
That means Igor GRACHEV has to drive about 200 kilometers. A breakdown in the mine would be a catastrophe. That's why every driver checks the truck once a day, including the 8 4-meter-high tires.
1 tire costs about 80,000 euros.
Now, time for fuel. A tanker brings it to the dump truck. And even though the tanker itself is nearly 3 meters high and over 10 meters long, it looks positively tiny next to the Bugatti. Refueling takes a good 40 minutes.
We refuel once per shift. It's usually enough for 17 to 18 trips. One way is about 4.5 kilometers long. That's a consumption of about 3,500 to 3,700 tons.
Once the tanks are full, Igor GRACHEV can start. He must climb 24 stairs to reach his workplace, 7 meters off the ground. Despite its size, only one driver operates the dump truck. Cameras help him to keep his surroundings in view. Because of the cold, the XXL truck's engine is always running. The 75710 arrived at the mine in 2014. Even for an experienced driver like Igor GRACHEV, its size took quite some getting used to.
I started with 110-ton trucks, so between 75 and 110. That's a big difference. Driving this huge truck and dealing with its new dimensions was initially difficult, but you get used to it.
Igor GRACHEV and the truck descend 150 meters into the mine, where a new coal seam is being opened. This requires removing up to 10 million tons of rubble from the mine. Below, the excavator is waiting to load the humongous dump truck with a mountain of rocks. Thanks to all-wheel drive, 2 differential locks and 2 movable axles, Igor GRACHEV parks his 20-meter vehicle smoothly next to the excavator. With each scoop, over 40 tons, the weight of an entire tractor-trailer, land in the dumping bed.
The excavator operator monitors the load. But I also have a display in the truck showing me the weight. Here I can see how much has already been loaded onto the truck and how much I'm still able to take.
After 3 minutes and 11 scoops, the Bellatz is fully loaded. The excavator operator gives Igor GRACHEV the sign to drive away. Fully loaded, the Bellatz weighs over 800 tons. That it can still match the speed of a normal tractor-trailer is thanks to its unique drive system. For in contrast to other dump trucks, the Bellatz 75710 has 2 engines. The power of these 2 16-cylinder engines is transmitted via 2 alternators to 4 electric motors, which sit on the axles. In turn, these 1600 horsepower electric motors drive the wheels. Even when driving fully loaded uphill, like now, the monster truck still reaches a speed of 40 kilometers per hour.
We've arrived at the dumping station. Time to unload.
2 extra strong hydraulic pistons measuring 50 centimeters in diameter and with a working pressure of 250 bars, 100 times more than a car tire, raise the dumping bed. Dumping takes a grand total of only 26 seconds. This trip took Igor GRACHEV half an hour. He begins the return journey to the pit immediately. To meet his target for the day, he must take away 9,550 more tons. Actually, the Belarusian company Bellatz built the 75710 purely as a demonstration of their technology. But the mine operators were so excited by the moving giant that it is now produced serially, despite its hefty price tag of 6 million euros. In return, the 75710 can be used all over the world, from 50 degrees Celsius to 50 below. To keep the temperature here in Siberia from freezing the load, a portion of the exhaust is used to heat the dumping bed. The Bellatz must be serviced every 500 work hours. First, the wheels are checked. Each one by itself weighs 5.3 tons and contains as much steel as 2 compact cars. Automotive engineer Dmitry URMANOW is responsible for the mine fleet's maintenance. The 75710 is something special for him too.
This truck outperforms all others. Its many new features make it more economical. Therefore, we are able to reduce our costs, and it saves us a lot of time. The bigger the vehicle, the better the workflow, because it's possible to transport more goods with it.
As with every other vehicle, the 75710's oil must be checked regularly. One small difference. In this truck, it requires going inside the engine compartment. At 33.5 square meters, it is as big as a whole apartment. The two engine blocks are each 3 meters long and 1.5 meters wide.
Когда первый раз столкнулись
At first, we were surprised by the engine's size. Then we understood that even though it may look huge from the outside, it is still a normal vehicle. It's just much bigger.
So big that the 75710 is built in a hangar specially designed for that purpose. The XXL dump truck is made of 8 main parts that are then assembled on site in the mines. This is the only way for Belarts to deliver the 75710.
We are proud to be the first to actually use such a dump truck. And of course, we're also somewhat proud to be able to do work on it. For us, this is a great opportunity.
The maintenance crew reaches the deck. That's where the control system for the electric motors is located. It is made so that the manufacturer's IT specialists can log in from anywhere in the world to resolve problems.
At
the moment, it is the largest dump truck in the world. Models 2 and 3 will be even better and more advanced.
However, there are no plans as yet for an even bigger truck. Right after the maintenance check, Igor GRACHEV and the 75710 get back to work. Every hour the truck is not being used costs the mine operators several thousand euros. But thanks to his truck's impressive performance, Igor GRACHEV makes up for lost time and transports the day's assigned 10,000 tons. After 12 hours, Igor GRACHEV has finished. Shift change.
I'm off now, but I'll be back to work tomorrow morning.
The world's biggest and heaviest mine truck, however, continues working without respite.